after the discussion the last user group meeting, we figured out how we could get in, and one of my tenants is provisioned with lists, and 2 of them are not right now. But anyway, I digress. So I went into Word, my online copy of Word, and I took a look at it, and I was quite excited to find that actually, so this is Thursday morning, find that Transcribe was already there within my copy of my instance of Word Online. So I ended up using it to dictate this article, and actually everything from here down to here was dictated. Now, it wasn't just dictated, because dictate has been in Word for quite a long time now. But all of this was actually dictated using the transcribe function. So before I show you the demo, I'm just going to tell you some things. So obviously, part of Microsoft's mission is about basically giving everybody the tools they need to succeed. They say it more eloquently than that, but they've got a very clear statement about enabling everybody to do more. And one of the things that I've really noticed over the last couple of years since Satya came in and that mission statement changed is how much effort they're putting into things like accessibility and people with disabilities. Now, I'm one of those. I suffer with quite significant repetitive strain injury. So if I spend more than an hour or 2 working at a keyboard, I really pay the price for it. So I've been using voice dictation software for, let me just think about this, for well over 15 years. And the technology has got better and better. And I have been paying Dragon or Nuance for their Dragon Dictate license for all of that time. So when Microsoft released Dictation in Word a year ago, just less than that, I was quite excited, but I tried it. And there was 2 problems I had with the built-in dictation function. Let me just show you that that really is there. So here's a copy of Word. I've typed this stuff up, but up here on the toolbar in Word Online, and it's also there in the latest Word desktop client, is a dictate button. In fact, this dictate button is appearing all over the place in Microsoft stuff right now. Dictate is fine, except that it doesn't really have any command, didn't have any command tools. So if you go, oh, I made a mistake, delete the previous word, it didn't handle that. You just had to dictate. And then the other problem that I have is with dictation, what seems like a feature is actually a problem for me because it shows me the words as I'm dictating them. And it's like a cognitive echo. Because I'm dictating, if I can read what I've just said, I end up stopping, it breaks my chain of thought, and I go back and correct all the stupid things it's done or I've done. And so I actually didn't want a show me what it's capturing as I dictate it. I needed something a lot more like dictating into a dictaphone, where you dictate it, hope it's right, hand it over to your PA. It's been nearly 2 decades since I had a PA, but I did have one, and it was great. Dictated, handed it to the PA, the typing pool turned that into real words. So when Transcribe came along, I wondered whether that would solve this problem for me, allowing me to do something much more like a free-flowing dictation, with it then rendering it up into text after the event and letting me dictate that way. So this article that I just showed you, that was entirely created using Transcribe, not dictation. I will show you the demo in a minute. Obviously, I've gone back through this document and I've corrected it. But the first thing that struck me was it had almost everything I said correct. Now, I have a fairly Middle English speaking voice, but I didn't make any particular efforts to enunciate. I just talked to it as if I was talking to a dictaphone. I was reasonably clear, but not especially clear. I certainly didn't slow down or change the way that I spoke, other than just being reasonably clear at what I said. Straight away, I noticed that I was able to have a much more fluid, continuous chain of thought process when I did this. But I said I went back and changed it because there was some stuff that I said that was just bollocks. So I changed the stuff that was rubbish, but it's transcription accuracy was way better than either drag and dictate, which I've been using for a long time, and much, much better than my own typing. Right? Type OK, but it was much better than that. In fact, my subjective opinion is it was more accurate than my PA used to be when I had one. So that's interesting. The second thing I want to tell you before I show you the demo is that officially, this thing only supports US English. That's the official word, and I've checked that multiple times now. Officially, it only supports US English. But I just think that Microsoft PR department are behind the curve, because I can confirm that it absolutely supports English, not US English. In fact, as far as I can tell, it supports all the same languages that the dictate function supports. And if I just drag dictate over again and fire up the dictate mode, I'm going to just stop that. I just wanted to get to the toolbar here. And we look at the settings in dictate. These are the languages that it supports out of the box. So English and those other two variants. I'm saying that especially for your benefit, John. Chinese, French, German, Italian, Spanish. And then there's a bunch of other languages which are in preview. So as far as I can tell, all of the dictate languages are fully supported already. Auto punctuation also seems to be fully supported in Transcribe. So what I'm saying is that it's more capable than the press release would have us believe. Right, let me just get rid of that. Right, so shall we give it a go? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on transcription. Let's get rid of that help button. Let's get rid of that. Turn on dictation, turn on transcribe. And here we go, as is the Microsoft UI these days. Actually, what I should do is remember to record this. Simon, can you turn recording on, please?
Already done.
Fantastic. Lovely job. Right, so I've clicked on the dictate drop down. We now have transcribe available in the online version of Word. I can confirm, because I've tested it, this absolutely runs with all of the Microsoft 365 licenses. So I've got two enterprise tenants, both of which have it, but I also have used this and tested it with my own personal family account tenant, and it's just the same. So as far as we can tell, they've rolled it out at no additional cost across the entire M365 estate. So you can see when I click on transcribe, up comes the transcribe pane in the right hand side, and I've got two options here. I can either upload audio. So if I had been using a dictaphone or a digital dictaphone, I could take the audio from that and upload it, or I could potentially be recording audio into my mobile phone or any other recording capture device. You could even take a podcast or something like that and upload that, and it will attempt to convert the audio. There's just one small gotcha on that, which is right now you've got a maximum of 300 minutes a month of uploaded transcription. So bear that in mind. At the bottom it tells you it's got 300 transcription upload minutes used this per month, and I've used none of them. Now what is interesting is I actually have done some uploads, and that number hasn't changed so far, but it could just be lagging. However, the other option I've got is to use start recording, and that doesn't have a restriction. So I'm going to turn that on right now. So that's it, it's fired up. It says leave the pane open, which is fine, I'm going to do that. You can see that the counter is running, and I've got the ability to pause. And if I say stuff now, it's going to miss this piece, and then I'm ready to carry on, and it'll pick up again. So it's now picking up our voices. So can I ask some questions? So we need to turn your microphones on for this, of course, but has anyone actually looked at this feature at all already?
I have not.
Not yet.
I have.
And what do you think?
I briefly had a look, and it seemed to work fine. I didn't go as much into the testing as you did, but I'm keep going now just to see how it gets on with my accent.
And have you tried it with your heavy accent, as we suggested last time? As opposed to
no.
your bastardized for the English accent.
No, this is now my standard accent. So see how it goes.
Okay, well, we'll see how it goes. So, so basically, we're having a conversation.
What does it do with ahs and uhs and hms and stuff like that?
Well, that's a very good question. I don't really know. Let's see if we can find out. Now, I like to think that I don't have too many ahs and ums and other little pauses, but of course we know that we all do. We're mostly totally unconscious of those little interstitial phrases we put in our conversation, and it takes quite a bit of practice to get rid of them. So we'll have to see. So what I'm going to do, I think, is stop this right now, and we'll see how it's got. Right, so the first thing is you can see that as soon as I hit the save and transcribe button, it starts uploading it to OneDrive. So that's an important clue for us. Is the audio that it's captured, it stores in your OneDrive. And I'll show you that in a moment. So you saw also that was really quite quick. Because it's been capturing the audio as we've gone along, all that had to do was a little bit of file management in the back end to shift wherever it's captured that to over into my OneDrive. We'll look at that in a minute. If I was uploading, depending on the speed of your connection, my pessimistic estimate is it takes a minute per minute of recording to do the upload, transcription, and presentation. I actually think it's probably going to be more like 30 minutes. But if you've got an hour of audio, you might well be waiting for 30 to 60 minutes before it does that. So time to go and have a long cup of coffee or lunch, perhaps. But in this case, it's damn near immediate. And I've done some much longer transcription stuff that runs to 15, 20 minutes. And again, it's damn near immediate. So that's the first thing. Second thing is we can see right up here, there is a live link. And if you look at my mouse over, so down at the bottom right where I've got the URL, you can see, it's really small, so you may not be able to see, but you can see it has gone into my Canasta tenant, into my personal, so it's in my OneDrive bit for business. It's gone into the documents in OneDrive, and there's now a new folder called Transcribed. So it's created a transcribed folder. So it is really storing it in my OneDrive. The next thing you can see is a bar that shows how long that recording was, and we recorded for 1.5 minutes. And I can start to listen to that. I can play the recording, it's captured straight back. So I could listen to it and go, that was just rubbish, I'm going to do it again. But what I'm more likely to do is jump straight down into the transcription. So this is where it gets interesting. More or less, every time I hit a natural break in the recording, so typically a sentence break, where you'll hear that I have a slight pause in my conversation, it's treated that as a proper break. And so it's put all the punctuation in, and then it's broken it out into different sections for me. So you go down, speaker one, speaker one, speaker one, speaker. Oh, so now that isn't speaker one. That was Simon saying on it when I asked him if he could set up the recording. And then there's someone saying not yet. And then that might have been, I don't know who it was. And then you said something, Anthony. So you can see it's starting to do speaker identification. Now, what's been interesting this time is that speaker identification's come up almost immediately. When I tried it last week, it was just listing everybody as speaker. And then actually after about a minute, it filled in the speaker one, speaker two.
Simon, so, did it miss my words out? Because I think I said I have roundabout.
You're a bit quieter on my speaker than everybody else, Tony. So we'll try that again a little bit later. But yeah, because really I haven't done anything clever. I've literally got a desktop microphone. And then it's coming out through my desktop speakers. So I've done no clever loop back. Right, but I'll come back to that point a little bit later as well. So here's the thing. So I know that speaker one is me. So let's go and make sure that it knows that speaker one is.
I was going to say, yeah, okay. Do you have to upload WAV files? Because I see that it's a WAV.
No, it supports 4 different upload formats: MP3, WAV, M4A, and something else. I forget what. I'll go back and look at the upload option in a minute. Actually.
Would it be WMA? Windows Media Audio.
I don't think it is. I think Microsoft has effectively
they ditched it.
Blocked that. All right. Oh, hang on. I know what I didn't do. So if I set this to change all speakers, you see there I corrected it and said that was Simon speaking. But this time I corrected it again, but it said change all of the speaker ones. You can also see that I could manually correct the text in there if I wanted to, but I'm not going to. So there you go. So now all of my parts of the conversation have been labeled with me. And I could go and change these other ones as well. So I can go down, you can see the whole conversation runs all the way down there. So the next thing is, you notice that it's got a time signature for each of these. So if I'm not sure what this not yet was, let me just go and listen to the audio. I'm going to try and turn my audio up so you guys can hear because it's really complicated. So let me just play this back to you.
Not yet. I have.
And what do you think?
I briefly had a look at it. It seemed to work fine. I didn't go as much into the testing as you did.
Okay, so I think it missed your I have tone.
Yep.
Really got the part. But you can also hear that you're quieter than me.
Yep.
But you can hear that I can just go in and I can click on the time signature at any point and listen to what was actually said. So if I am trying to correct it, I can do that from here by listening to it. So great for me. I'll come back to that point a little bit later. So all this stuff has been transcribed. From here, I can take an individual item and go, I want to capture that, and this bit here, and this bit here, and click the plus symbol that appears when I do the mouse over, and it instantly adds it to my document. So that's quite straightforward. The other thing that I can do is just do an add all. There's the whole thing. Now, here's a kicker. So my first attempt at this, it was like, oh God, if I'm writing an article, I don't want every sentence to be punctuated with who it is that's speaking. But actually, if I hadn't corrected my name already, then all I have to do is not like that. All I did was do a Control H, find and replace. How do you do find and replace in here? There we go. I don't use the web client as much. So if I search for speaker 1, with that, what I do with the desktop version when I do this, I transcribe it here, then I open it in the desktop version, and I do a find and replace, and I put the I put this symbol, right? That is remove the paragraph break as well. I just put a space in instead, and so that just puts everything into a single row of text. But anyway, let me get rid of that piece. Do replace all, and there I've got. Now again, I've left my Simon H's in, so let's just get rid of those. There we go. So again, I use a slightly cleverer, tidier algorithm in the desktop version, but you can see how quickly it is just to get the whole transcribed conversation and drop it into a document. So let's have a quick look and see what it's actually got and see how close to what was probably being said. Again, bearing in mind that I've just got a desktop microphone that was picking up what you guys are saying to me via my desktop speakers. So it's like it's even got colloquialisms, so I'm going to do that. That probably was me having a sort of a stutter. So there's your answer, John, is yes, it captures all of those interstitials. So my uhs and ums are in there. So that one isn't quite right. That word should have been now. And it missed my thing about turning on the recording. Not quite sure what Dylan was saying there. So it's not perfect, but again, I'm not. We were just talking to each other. I wasn't making an effort to do much of a recording job, and it's made a pretty decent job of transcribing that. Right, so let's kill that off. I'm going to get rid of this thing again. And clean up. So you can also see in the top of the insert, it's put in the heading transcript. I'm going to get rid of that now. it's also given me a link in the document to the original file. That. So next thing to do then. If I start a new transcription, there's a warning because it only allows you to have one audio file per document. That's important. So you can't easily go and mix and match. What I could do though is add everything into the document and then create a new transcription. And I could build it up that way, but it can only actually only handle a single audio file live in the document. So bear that in mind. I'm going to do.
Will it keep that transcribe wave though in your OneDrive, so you could upload the audio if you wanted to redo it?
I don't know, Simon. That's a fantastic question. We'll find that out in a minute.
Okay, cool.
So I think what we'll do is we'll just start another transcription and see what that does. But I think the idea of seeing in OneDrive what it's doing is an excellent one. Let's find that out now. Let me think. I just checking which tenant I'm in. So if I just go into my OneDrive from here.
Yeah, you need Cantata one, yeah.
Yeah. And so here's the folder that it's created. There's my transcribed folders, transcribed files folder. And here are the recordings. They're not very excitingly named. And I'm not sure at the moment whether you can actually rename those in the app, but I can rename them here. So let's have a look at this one. This is recording 3. So if I come in, I've done this one already. We'll do it again in a minute because this one's already been removed. So that's part of your answer, Simon, is yes, that recording 3 is the one that we made before and seems to be being retained. So I could do that.
Cool, yeah.
So that's the next thing, is it's possible therefore to merge multiple recordings by either having a conversation, pausing it, having another call with somebody else, adding to it, and so forth. The next thing I think is interesting is, I mean, you can see that we're actually capturing live audio from a conversation. So I know that Teams itself does a live, what's the text at the bottom of the video called? I've gone blank on that. Captions.
Yeah, captions, yeah.
Captions,
Thank
yeah.
you. So Teams can do live captioning, and in theory you can, if you've recorded the whole conversation, you can get a transcript out of the video file that Teams records. But you may not want people to do that. I mean, I think there's an ethics question there. But if I wanted to have a covert recording, or I'm doing a session I don't want to have video in it, or something like that, I could absolutely use this using this non-headphone mechanism for capturing the audio and having it transcribed.
It's interesting, actually. I was looking at LinkedIn this morning, and there's a chap in York, and he was talking about this transcribe feature in or live captions in Teams, and just saying, one of the people was was hard of hearing, and they were just like, this is the best thing this has made my day, that there's this feature available. I had no idea it was there, and it is an incredible feature. I've just switched it on, and I can see that it's it's really is switched on, and it's it's doing a really good job of interpreting my conversation. Sorry, I'm reading it at the same time. I'm just trying to talk. Anyway,
you see what I mean about that cognitive echo when you try and read what you've just said? It's exactly the same as hearing an actual audio echo, which is fascinating neuroscience.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, again, for me, the transcribe feature was immediately resonant because I have a repetitive strain injury. But you're absolutely right. There are lots of people with other kinds of impairments. In fact, most of us have impairments of one sort or another. My hearing is certainly not as good as it once was. And so being able to read live captions or have access to the transcript is really important. I've noticed my daughter, who has no hearing impediment, watches most films with captions on because she likes to be able to read the words, not just hear them. So.
I suppose, that comes down to, most people are very visual, aren't they? They're visual learners rather than maybe auditory learners, visual and kinetic as well, the doing of something to, doing something to learn, whereas fewer people are able to listen to learn.
Yes, that's absolutely true. It's an old teaching adage of I hear, I forget, I see, I remember, I do, I understand.
Yeah.
So, right, okay, well, we've been talking for over 4 minutes for this transcription, so let's pause it and then see what it's actually captured this time. So again, it's uploading that 4-minute file to OneDrive. The 1.5-minute file we had before was 8 megs. See how big this one is. In theory, it should be about 24 or 25 meg. Okay, that's uploaded. Come over here, and lo and behold, there it is, and it's 25 meg. Damn, I'm good. I can do basic arithmetic in my head. Right, now, I am sure that there is a way of changing the name of that file, so I'm going to try that now and rename it, because that's an important function, because I might want to call them recording 1, recording 2. I might need to be able to tag them up. So if I call this Pico 2,
Yeah. It probably doesn't matter now, does it? Once it's done the transcribing, it's got all that data there anyway. It doesn't. The only probably thing which won't work is if you hit the play button on that WAV file, it won't be able to find it anymore.
Let's find out. I think what we'll do is we'll just start another transcription and see what that does. But
I'm wrong then. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it? So I don't know whether they've cached this recording on the Azure servers that are doing the audio to text piece and giving you your own copy. But yeah, you seem to be able to rename them once they've been captured.
Yeah, it's brilliant that you can do it. It's all in the browser. It's just incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One interesting thing I notice is it records what you said, not necessarily putting your best face on it, because it's got lots of cuzzes and the slang you use. It hasn't actually translated it into long form. So
Yeah.
it's quite accurate in recording what you actually said. But if you were going to produce a document from that, you might have to do a few edits to try and formalize your language.
Yes, or get used to speaking in a more formal fashion, which is a skill,
Yes.
but one that's easily learned. Yeah, and the ums, yeah, they're all there. But again, people tend to have a fairly consistent set of interstitial phrases, so you just go through and find them and delete them or bulk replace them.
I'm impressed with it picking up question marks as well. It seems to be able to pick up a question quite reliably.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's really very clever, I think. It's got this new speaker recognition feature, which Microsoft and Google and Amazon have been claiming is coming. Well, it looks to me like that capability exists properly now, but the auto punctuation is actually really impressive.
Is it that when it says it's doing US English, it's the spelling of some words that would be different?
Let's see if we've got any spelling differences in what I've said. So what we would need to look for is any Z's or Z's, as we would probably want to call them.
You had bastardized with a Z or Z.
Yeah, it was with a Z, yeah.
Was
We
it?
said organisation, have we? Yeah, it was, yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
Well, if you said Z, it probably would put Z. If you said Z, it might not know what to put. But other words like theater or stuff like that, which I'm not as familiar with, but I mean, there's different spellings between British English and US English.
Yeah, honor, color, and all those ones as well.
Yeah.
You can thank Noah Webster for that.
Let's have a look.
We should upload what's the song? Potato, tomato, tomato. Slow it up and see what it does.
And as you say, so if we talk about things like theatres and meters, meter course in English can be spelt both ways, depending on whether we're talking the length in meters or a voltmeter.
Measuring device. And center and grey and honor and color.
Color, yeah. Organisation.
So what's really interesting, in in the live captioning, that's using US English.
It is, yeah, yeah.
Does that make a difference to you guys?
Oh yeah, we bloody hate American English, but we're very used to correcting it. So.
Yeah, it's like the amount of times that Microsoft products you fight over date and the US format date, and it just keeps sneaking into different products.
Oh yeah.
And the amount of pain it is to remove American English from Word. But anyway, like I digress, and we're only having a go because you're the nominal representative of the fine United States of America.
It's a bit unfair on John to be representative of the entire country of the United States.
He signed up. I mean, he's got the whole weight of the country on his shoulders right now.
Yeah. How do you feel about representing your country quite like that?
It's okay. I mean, I'm very happy that I found you guys and was able to join. I'm glad that Simon posted this in his self advertising in Quora.
Okay.
I'm the president of a user group in the United States, and we use Zoom, and we have these meetings all the time. I shared this with the guy who does the word processing meeting. We're not using Power Platform the way your group does, but we are everything. Linux, Microsoft, Apple, and so it's great to join you.
Oh,
it's a big organization in the United States for all the user groups in the country.
Okay.
Oh, that's
well,
really cool.
I'm really pleased you joined, John. I didn't know that's how you found about us, but that's terrific. And just a little bit of insight. Although we use the Power Platform user group label, we're also broad. Everything that we do is Microsoft technology. We haven't really stepped outside of that, other than when Microsoft is supporting Linux or something. We want to show how that works. But the Power Platform is a convenient banner to operate on, rather than something that we use to determine our strategy.
A flag of convenience, if you will.
That's exactly the phrase, Dylan. Thank you.
We started off associated with a community college called Brookdale Community College, but so we still have the name, but we have nothing to do with them anymore. So, hey, as long as you can find us.
Exactly it. Cool. Well, let's just stop this transcription and see how it's done with our various uses of English. So what we ought to do, again, good practice, is if we're likely to carry on transcribing later, I'd pause it, and then we'd have some conversation about something, and then I'd restart it, rather than creating multiple transcriptions. But for now, for the purposes of this demo, I'm just going to do another transcribe. So we'll see how long that takes. Again, my experience is it's pretty quick. I don't know if this is uploading from it can't be uploading from my machine. That's my view. I think this is uploading from Azure or something into somewhere else.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think that's the same. Yeah.
You'd have to get Fiddler on it and see what's going on and look at the traffic.
You just got the job done.
I don't think the HTML, HTML5 is that sophisticated, is it, to allow you the browser to be, writing this somewhere locally and recording.
It'd be interesting to see, because there are some tricks you can do, but making that work across different browsers, it's sort of the reasons I'm not a developer anymore. All too complicated these days.
It's all easy now. It's all HTML5, straightforward.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you get to progressive web apps, and then it's not again.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's all easy in theory until you actually try and do something useful.
I just want to check something. I've got it set to auto English. I'm sure that the document I did the other day, it had picked up English, but we'll see. So that's the way it works. You can see how pretty good the transcription is, and this is just us capturing a conversation, right? If I was doing it properly, the quality is even better because I mold my speaking just a little bit to suit the medium, but not too much. Right. So there's a couple of other things I want to just run through with you. So I did a session with a client last week. Actually, literally the 2 days after we discovered the feature was running, they were really keen to see the thing working, because they literally have a transcription business. I won't go into their business, that's confidential, but yeah, this is what they do, and they have teams of people who are there transcribing digital dictaphones from consultants, and they were literally orgasmic about what this will do for their business. Fascinating stuff. What was interesting was I did a demo much as I've done now, and I hit share, and I sent it to them. John, what's your email address?
Mine,
Yeah, see if this works.
J Stampfel, JSTAMPFEL at Gmail, FEL at Gmail.
I think that's right.
That's good.
Sorry, wrong tenant for this. Okay, well, you have to believe me. I wonder if, no, there needs to be an edit mode. This won't work because I have nobody to blame but myself. This is my company and I set the policy. So
Simon Doy has my email address as well. He interacted with me.
okay.
He does.
It was less about getting your email address, useful though that might be, John, and more about I wanted to share this with you live. Because
By the way, well, it's being recorded. Did you notice up here, there's a thing called collections now in Edge,
oh yeah,
that once you've got this thing showing, you should be able to make it a collection and send it directly to Word. That may allow you to also send it by email.
okay. So what I could certainly share the document. I just can't share it off this tenant. But the other day when I was demonstrating this, I was able to share the document with a guest user, and when they accessed the document, they were also able to access the full transcription pane. Which is
really? Oh, that's cool,
yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah, that
Okay.
was the thing. I was like, oh, that does work. So I share the sharing. When you do the sharing comes with access to the transcript and the audio.
Oh, that's clever.
Obviously, what it's doing is wrapping some shared permissions around the associated audio. There's some link in the background that says this piece of audio is connected to this document. Show the transcription pane. So again, I think that's a really interesting use case where we can have a group of people who are not in the same organization working together on a document like this, share it, and then people can go and edit their own comments or whatever, fully interactive at the transcript pane level.
Yeah, that's really cool. Not wanting to know too much about your customer, but was it, if they use technical language, did it work quite well with that? If they were maybe using healthcare sort of type stuff, yeah.
Don't know yet. So I think that is a question to be investigated. Sorry, my phone's ringing and I can't easily stop it.
Yeah, because I can imagine this be fantastic if you're doing like doctor doing the ward round, and then you'll be able to speak through your transcribe your each patient. I think that'd be really interesting.
So my guess is this, and it is only a guess at this point in time, is that because this thing is driven off the machine learning engine, it'll only know those terms which have been in common usage in all the conversations Microsoft is being able to learn or teach the engine from to date. So I'm thinking that to begin with, there'll be some fairly substantial gaps in its topic-specific vocabulary. However, and that's where tools like Philips or Drag and Dictate will have the advantage at the moment because they come with a predefined language set. However, this will just keep getting better. I'm sure that they're continuing to retrain the engine in the background, and as those specialist terms start to appear in their data sets, the engine will get better. So I think it will improve gradually over time. But for right now, the only way to correct those inaccuracies will be to go in and manually edit them. And going to be fascinated to see working with his client how quickly, how accurate it is to begin with out of the box, and how quickly it acquires the ability to interpret jargon.
Yeah, that's right. You can imagine if it's, if you say you had Project Cortex running and you started building up that glossary of terms, and it was able to kind of digest that for your tenant, and then be able to use those. So like you can do with search, where you can give it, a custom dictionary.
Yeah, domain-specific language is definitely a killer feature, isn't it? For most technical uses, you'd need it to have a dictionary. And the interesting thing is, if you could switch which dictionary, it would help, wouldn't it? Because sometimes if you're talking in the context of construction, a certain set of letters might mean one thing, but if you were talking in the context of, say, medicine, it have some completely different meanings. So, if you say acronyms are another one. If you said CIA, am I talking about the Central Intelligence Agency, which I'd expect to be capitalized, or would it try and literally transcribe that, write it, try and transcribe it phonetically? Things like that would make a big difference.
Well, I didn't actually see what the, just say that again. Just mention that agency that you mentioned again.
Oh, yes, CIA and NSA. Let's just say NSA. So,
okay. So captioning, put the words as you described, and then immediately corrected it back to CIA.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's quite interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Well, the NSA are listening, so obviously they like to be referred to correctly.
Yeah.
I gather there are real sticklers about these things. And GCHQ, of course.
I couldn't possibly comment.
Can neither confirm nor deny.
But that is correct. The Official Secrets Act that I have signed forbids me from taking the conversation any further. So I think that the technology is very interesting. It's very good. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't try and monetize the domain-specific language. Or the other thing which would be interesting, of course, is they're beginning to capture those kind of term sets out of Office 365 and the CDS, because the CDS hooks up to Dynamics, and they've got very specific, industry-specific terms in there. So they probably will be able to grab the learning from those fairly quickly. The question is whether they just incorporate them, or whether they say, well, do you want to buy the building or the medical or whatever language set for your free tool?
Because underneath it's just cognitive services, speech recognition services. So I can't actually remember how it works with that, but I'm sure it's quite customizable, because the cognitive services vision stuff has a whole load of stuff where you can upload custom dictionaries of things to recognize. So you can teach it to tell the difference between a nut and a bolt, for example.
Exactly. And that's a really nice segue, thank you, Dylan, because I was going to talk about what is going on here in terms of a technical architecture, and that's exactly it. So the browser is capturing the audio live, because HTML5 can do that stuff. We are pretty confident that it's squirting it at not particularly high bit rates over into the Azure Cognitive Services engine, which is the same engine that they've got using for the live captioning and for the dictate function within Word. It's capturing that, doing a background transcription and squirting it back. So it's all running through that massive cognitive services engine. And again, what I think is interesting is the more people use it, the smarter it gets.
What would be an interesting test is to see how well it worked if you were driving or on a train or something with a degree of background noise, just pink noise, and possibly even other people talking in the background, and see how well it got on.
Well, let's see if we can simulate that. I wonder. Let's do this and this. Alexa, play white noise.
White Noise by Steve Jar.
Oh no, this is not going to work, is it?
No.
Anyone know what the right command? I can do. Alexa, volume up.
You could have the sound of cicadas or something like that. It just.
Play
Okay,
river
so
noises.
arbitrary pink noise in the background,
Oh, there you
quite
go.
loud. Okay, so it's certainly screwing up the live captioning. Well, I got some of it.
Yeah.
The trouble is that I just increased my my volume to be able to compensate.
So if there was somebody else in the background having a conversation, so imagine a hypothetical situation, you are on a train and there's somebody, you are talking, you are dictating, but somebody else is talking loudly on the other side of the train.
Buy,
That sort of
sell,
scenario.
sell. No.
Yeah. I'm on a
Alexa.
train.
Alexa, stop.
And you with your mask on,
Yeah.
and then without a mask.
Yeah. So, well, I have already
Yeah.
tested that. So my wife was on a conference call in the study. You can see a bit of right down the other end there. She was on a conference call at the time that I was testing this, and yes, it was absolutely picking up her audio. But in that case, the trick would be to put a headset on, and noise cancelling headset would reject most of the background noises and still be good to go.
Yeah. Otherwise, somebody could be very cruel and just randomly do an expletive in the background, and it would sneak into your document.
Oh yeah, so that's audio bombing. We've created
Yeah.
Yeah, Zoom bomb.
Yes, it's Zoom bombs.
Right, I'm going to upload that one and just see how it got on with some of that white noise. And then I'll finish off probably just by doing an upload and showing you how the actual upload of another audio piece works. While it does that, I'm going to try and find a file. Okay, so there's our transcription.
White noise by Steve Jobs.
Yeah. You can see it's missing more stuff now. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it's obviously like anything, it's going to be somewhat noise sensitive. But there you go.
Somebody like PC Magazine or someone will do a review, and they'll take the same recorded thing with a certain amount of noise of different kinds and compare, drag into this to something else. And somebody will do the test, and then somebody will fix it. But you can't get rid of all the noise.
No. Now we use some technology. I think it was Gary that introduced us to this technology called, what's it called, guys?
What's that?
Say that again, Simon.
Sorry, so I don't know what we're talking about. Gary introduces some technology.
Some technology for doing noise suppression. Oh, here we go.
Oh,
Crisp. So
yes,
I've got
that's
Crisp
right.
running here at the moment, and that does some levels of noise compression, or noise suppression rather. Right, let's just try and find a audio file that I can try and do an upload with. Bear with me while I search through, because I didn't have time to prep this piece properly. In fact, what I could probably do is this. Okay, I'm going to get clever now. So I just come over into here. So this is going into my personal OneDrive, where I think I've still got an audio recording. So first thing is, if you're going into your personal OneDrive, you can still use it here. Here's transcribed files. So it's created one in my personal drive, and here are some recordings. So let me just download. I won't do this 39 meg. Well, we'll do this 5 meg. No, let's stuff it. Let's do the 39. Actually, it might already be down in my downloads. Let's take a look. See. Okay, might even be in luck. It looks like I already have a recording from before. Just shift that to there. There we go, 32 meg file. If I go and do an upload, right, so 32 megabyte file. Let's see how long that takes to run. So it's currently 1954 by my PC clock. I reckon it's going to take 2 or 3 minutes to get it all uploaded. But I think most of this is actually upload time. Let's have a quick look and see what Task Manager is showing. So that's the limitation. Now my upload speed is much faster than that, but at the moment, for whatever reason, it only uploads at a couple of megabits a second. So it's going to take a little while to get that up there. So I think this is the key difference is uploading recordings. It's all down to your upstream bandwidth and whatever throttling Microsoft put on that service. And I'm thinking most of this is throttling and not bandwidth limitation.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
It does seem to be throttled to just under 2. Interesting. Let's make sure we use up all of my bandwidth. See how horrible this is.
You're just showing off now.
Well, that's because I have fibre to the almost to the back of the PC. I've got fibre to the router. There you go. See, I've got a 30-something upstream. Okay, I've got a 40-something upstream. Oh, that hit 16. Oh, that's right. You saw the 16 there, but that was all down to the test and not down to the.
Yes.
Yeah, you saturated your connection then, didn't you?
I did. I'm very pleased to see that. Getting my money's worth one way or another. So let's see where that's got to. So it's about halfway through. So as I say, it's going to be somewhere in the region of 30 seconds to a minute per minute of audio by the time it's done this. Once it's got the audio though, the transcription happens remarkably quickly.
Interesting. I see Virgin now doing gigabit, aren't they, to download? Gigabit.
Okay. Well, my connection is capable of a gigabit down, but I'm too tight to spend that much money.
I know it's quite it's quite expensive, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure why I need gigabit either to the house. I haven't got a gigabit network here. All my links, most of my links are 100 meg. But either if you want to come in and install the hardware to give me a gigabit right down to the garage, that'd be fine. I'm going to need a longer drill. I think I need a half-meter drill bit to be able to get through.
I just spent a week on holiday, and 4G was supposedly available in Northumberland, but it rained one day and we tried streaming a Marvel film, and it was just truly an awful experience because everybody else on the same campsite was obviously trying to stream stuff, and it was just terrible. Even though you had sort of a 4 out of 5 bars on the phone, your actual throughput was just pathetic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So moisture in the air or rain has a significant attenuation effect on the signal.
Yeah, and I think everybody else trying to stream stuff, all these people stuck in tents with kids demanding to watch Peppa Pig or whatever, and at times it had almost no connectivity, and then it suddenly got better and things like that. It makes you realise just how good home broadband connections are these days. And
were you just running that off the antenna on your phone or something?
Yeah, just using the phone. I had to go to a certain side of the building to try and get it to work, and then use the phone as a hotspot.
So, as I may have gloated once or twice in the past on my boat, I have a 4G data connection. Inside the boat, I cannot make a phone call or receive texts with my phone. But I've got an antenna on the roof, and I can stream Netflix at the same time that I cannot receive texts.
Yeah, a boat being a very good
antenna, so an antenna, external antenna makes a massive difference.
Yeah, and a metal boat being in a Faraday cage.
3 minutes. And here's the transcription
cool.
uploaded audio. And again, I won't go through this. This is a different conversation, so I'm not going to add this to the document. But yeah, that's what we've found out so far. Has anyone got any questions you want me to think about?
Actually, do you know of its availability when it's going to filter to the desktop version of Word?
Well, I mean, my expectation, I've got a two-part answer to this, Dylan. My expectation is typically the desktop feature rollouts run about 2 months after the web version. I think that's partly obviously they need to wrap it into the code, do all the QA on it, and then get it onto the distribution schedule. But also, I think they like to be able to run these things in effectively preview, even if they're not using that word, on the web, because they can update stuff so much more quickly. So I'm expecting it will be 2 to 3 months before we'll see it rolling out into desktop client for Word. I would expect, but I can't be sure, that at the same time it appears in Word, it may appear in other products as well. It'll be interesting to see what Microsoft thinks the appropriate other products are, because they may well say, well, you don't need that in PowerPoint, because whoever transcribes in PowerPoint. But actually, my observation is that transcription is often a better tool than dictation. I would absolutely expect to see it coming as a native feature in Teams soon, though, because their update cadence in Teams is so much more rapid that I like to see them just spontaneously releasing this next month even.
Yeah, OneNote would be a good place for it, actually.
God, yes. But again, I spoke to the OneNote product manager last year, and they still haven't done any actual updates to the OneNote client. All of the background work on the OneNote client is just to bring the client up to spec with the app and the online experience, because they've got two code bases and they need to get them merged.
Yeah. Let's not talk about how they ruined OneNote.
Yes, I know. Well, we gave them a hard time and they listened. So.
Yeah, that's good. Guys, I've got to bounce, but thank you very much, Simon, for doing that. I think it was a really good session. So for people who are still here, for John, really, I guess, 15th of September is our next session, isn't it, with Matt Weston?
Yeah. And I think he's talking about custom connectors, Power Platform custom connectors.
Cool.
And we'll hopefully have some news by then as well. Something might have happened, because August is generally a quiet month.
Well, I've got a kind of piece of news I want to just share. So Simon, if you need to get off, oh no, you've gone, even better. No, you're still there. Simon,
no,
if you need to get off, head out, mate, and I'll finish stuff off at this end.
Cool. All right. Cheers, all. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. And Simon, we'll chat tomorrow.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, John,
Thank you all.
Mostly before you go, obviously, if you ever need any of our lot, because all of those, Simon Doy, Dylan and I all do deliver sessions. This was fairly ad hoc, but we often do much more structured planned sessions than this. For your user groups, you're always welcome to ask. And if we can make the timings work, then that would be great. The other thing I want to do is just draw attention to a piece of work that Simon Doy and I are involved in, which is this maturity model for Microsoft 365, which is on the Microsoft Docs site. So I'll just grab that, throw it down into the chat window. And the reason I'm mentioning that is we've got getting on for half a dozen documents already up on this site now. We're actively inviting people to start giving us feedback. So if anybody would like to take a bit of a read of any of these and push feedback in whatever mechanism makes sense, we would be very grateful for that. We're starting to wind up the promotion effort across both the community and the industry about these, but we'd like to get some sense of people's views on them before we do that. So please take a look if you get the chance and let us know what you think, any improvements, suggestions, changes, or just whether you think they're of value would be massively useful for the small community team that's involved in creating this piece of work.
I'll take a look. Yes, I've got the link and I see it's the maturity model.
Yep. Yeah. So
Thank
have
you.
got,
Yeah, this was
you
a
got any
great
questions about it?
presentation, far beyond what dictation could do. I mean, I answered a question on Quora because I had used dictation to just play something from my cell phone that I had recorded into dictation, and you know, it copied it out as dictation. But this has so many more features. Thank you so much.
Well, in fact, let me just finish off then by saying mobile, because I didn't actually answer that question. So right now, you can fire up, if you can get the mobile version of Word to run in the browser, this will run on a mobile device, but you've got to get the browser version of Word running, not the mobile version, if you see the difference. But the mobile version is coming later this year.
I'll give it a try. Yeah. Well, that's positive.
Yeah, it's great for me. I'll be able to dictate while I'm driving in the car. Cool. John, it's a pleasure joining. Usually at this point we try and get some drinks together, but I think tonight's an early night for all of us. It was a national holiday in the UK yesterday, so some of us are a little bit weary.
Yeah. Ours is next Monday.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Because often it coincides and sometimes it doesn't. We tend to have it on the last Monday of
August,
whereas Memorial Day falls into September sometimes, doesn't it?
Labor Day.
Labor Day, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm getting myself confused there.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Lovely. John, an absolute pleasure having you on board. Thanks for coming. We really appreciate it. And shout out if there's anything else that we can do to help.
Yeah.
I will. I'll be talking to you. I'll be following you.
Okay. Thanks for dropping by.
Good. Yeah.
I'm gonna drop off now.
Okay.
Bye bye. You got time for a quick one, Dylan?
Yeah, go for it. I might get a beer. Have you got? Oh, I bought some more of the Filey Bay stuff actually as a birthday present for myself. I bought the STR.
Well, let's go and get a beer, and then we'll exchange stories. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
Okay, let me just do the same. I'm trying to remember where I put it.
Right, I'm back. Your video isn't
I'm
showing.
back. Oh, okay. No, let me just turn that on. Camera on. Are we back?
Yeah, that's good. Cool.
Yeah. I think that was ineptitude. I'm just going to close the curtains because the nights are drawing in, as they say.
They are.
It's that time when it's light till 10 o'clock is all too brief.
Yes, I do like the really light summer evenings, but we're pretty much into the fastest rate of change of daylight now.
Yeah. So there's a certain, I kind of like seasons. I missed seasons when I've been to places with no seasons.
Yes. So have you lived abroad any time?
I have indeed. I lived in Houston for, let me think, going on 5 years. And before that, I had the craziest commute in the world, where I would commute on a monthly basis to a worldwide location, most often tropical Africa.
Okay, whereabouts in Africa?
Gabon, Equatorial Guinea, Nigeria, Chad, sort of not countries you associate with being pleasant, although Gabon was actually quite nice. So
we do get about a bit. Our sort, whatever that is, we do have. But I lived in South Africa for a year.
Mm-hmm.
working for a big government research establishment there. We might have talked about some of this before, but that's what I did. And then I was commuting to Florida for, well, I was properly commuting for 2 years, and I was in and out of Florida a bit either side of that. So.
Yeah, I sometimes miss it, but obviously, you know, any form of international travel over the last 6 months would have just been hell, because you know your job dictated you travelled, and it would be, I don't know what people who worked in the oil industry have done over that time. I can't imagine it was great.
So Chris and I went to Leeds today for reasons that I'll explain in a minute, and it was the first time we'd been on public transport since probably like last year. I was struck. So standing on the station at Brough, I used to do that. I used to be on that station once or twice a week, either down to London or across to somewhere else. And again, first time I've been to the station since last year, not just because of lockdown, but going into Leeds today, we went. This is the first time I've been into a city since March.
Yeah,
it's kind of weird.
It is really. I mean, the weird thing is, in my mind, and I think a lot of people, it's literally the world is before and after. So I literally think about my normal life up to March and my normal life since then. And, you know, because at one point, traveling down to London on a sort of bi-week, you know, traveling down to London frequently, traveling to other places frequently, and all that finished in March. So,
yeah, really, it is very odd.
Yeah, because, you know, business travel has, I wouldn't say it's ended, but, you know, you're not going to see a new customer. At the moment, hardly anybody's in the office, and nobody wants a stranger turning up in their office. It's just, that's gone, isn't it? It will come back.
Impact on all sorts of businesses.
Yeah.
If you're a car park operator, you're screwed.
Yeah.
No one's going anywhere. It's not that they're choosing to go by car instead of taking public transport. People are not leaving the house then. So usually, I used to have to catch the 12 minute past 7 Pullman to London. If you caught a later train, there would be nowhere to park. You would maybe, if you were lucky, be able to find a parking spot sort of lunchtime, mid-afternoon. But today we turned up at 12 o'clock at the station, and it was 5% full. So remarkable impact. The train was empty.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of other weird effects, because the government's now encouraging people to go back to work. You know, it's almost like they're sort of calling people out for being cowards, because lots of offices, it's obvious that people are going to get rid of city centre offices. They won't get rid of them completely, but they won't keep the current offices. I can't see very many companies wanting to do that.
Right.
And that suddenly means all this commercial property is now it's not going to make enough money to repay the debts on it. You know, a lot of commercial property that's been built recently is a dead asset, isn't it?
Now would be a good time to have a couple of £1 million in the bank, because at some point these properties are going to be on the market very cheaply, and if you wanted to turn them into housing or something else.
Yeah, because it's interesting, because it was the great hope of the high street was that it could be made into retail. Sorry, go from retail into sort of experiential type stuff, you know, pubs and bars, and to office space. You know, people were converting department stores into office spaces, but I think that one's a dead duck.
Yep.
You know, you wouldn't convert a old BHS or Debenhams store into office space, but you might profitably convert it into accommodation.
Yeah. Yes.
So,
no, it's very interesting. I don't really know what the medium-term impacts are going to be, but there's definitely going to be an awful lot of commercial property that just isn't going to be used anymore, and maybe that does alleviate some of the pressure on the housing sector. But I'm very interested to see whether the birth rate has gone up or gone down during lockdown.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because I'm trying to second order effects. I think I've got a handle on, but I'm trying to think of third order effects, and that's tricky, because coming back to property, I think there'll be growth in some things like people are going to move further away from town now. So reasonably, you could commute from here to London You could take a London job and go into London twice a week. I mean, people were doing that even before this, but now it's going to be mainstream rather than niche. But if you're going up and down, will you go up and down to London every day, or will you try and arrange an overnight? So there might be a role for not quite business hotels, but something like the ability to have something somewhere between a hotel and an apartment, if you know what I mean. Pied à terre, they call it.
So certainly if it was time shared.
Yeah.
Or some kind of, somewhere, as you say, somewhere between the two, whether that was an Airbnb type arrangement or it was a mechanism whereby people that need that can, it's like carpooling, isn't it? Only your accommodation pooling on some kind of rota basis.
Yeah, because if you knew that every week you were going to go, nearly every week you were going to go to London, and you had to do 2 days in the office, and you could be predictable, what you'd actually like is to have a base in London, because you could work out of a hotel room, but that's not pleasant. But if you had something, like you said, like some sort of time-shared property or something like that, something slightly nicer, somewhere between home and something like that, that would be attractive to some people.
Yes. And that's exactly what you should be. If somebody had the money, that's exactly what you should be doing with the commercial property as it becomes non-financially viable, and converting it into that kind of a letting. Yeah.
So something, because obviously a hotel does work, but the problem with a hotel is you're at the mercy of the market, and it's quite inefficient to book a hotel every bloody week, isn't it?
Yeah, and I just don't want hotel services actually. I mean, when I was commuting to the States, I don't know how it was for you, but I ended up just having an apartment out there, whether I was there or not, because it was cheaper than having a hotel. And I don't want people coming in and cleaning the rooms. I want to have my place to keep as I want it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously things like Airbnb can do that, but they would do that informally. But some accommodation specifically set up as that sort of business base. So, and I think lots of people would go for it, because you're going to have a lot of people are going to be moving progressively further out to outlying villages.
Yep. So here's why I went to London today, not London, Leeds today.
Sorry, I'm just appreciating that whiskey. It's I'll show you the bottle actually. The light's not good. It's Filey Bay. It's I've had it open about a week actually, but you can see as a function of the weather, I've drunk rather more than I expected to.
So which one is that? I can see STR strength or something like that.
Yeah, it is the STR, which is basically it's shaved, toasted, and recharred red wine casks. So it's got a bit more body to it. Oh,
okay. Because it actually, I mean, maybe it's just the lighting and the lens, but it did seem to have a slightly pinkish tinge to it.
It's got quite an amber. Let's have a look. The lighting's not good, but it's definitely a darker sort of caramel colour. Yeah. So I get it's nice stuff. I'm not sure it's necessarily worth 65 quid delivered.
No, I mean, I think we know that they're selling loads of this stuff. They're doing really well with the sales. But it seems like everyone is buying it for its collectibles value, not for thinking value.
Yeah. I mean, I quite enjoyed it, and Filey Bay, my parents used to live out that way, and I quite liked it there. And it was my mum wanted to get me a birthday present, so I bought it. So it's sentimental value. So the sentimental value to me makes it worth it. In terms of its whiskey, I think something about 40 quid that's Balvenie is actually a slightly preferable whiskey. But to me, it's worth a 20% premium, as it were, for sentimental value, because you don't drink whiskey for whiskey alone.
And anybody can drink a Balvenie, good or bad. Yeah. They can do it. Whereas this, not many people even know it exists. So there is something about it.
Yes. Anyway, sorry, I misdirected you there with talk of whiskey.
I'm easily misdirected on these things. So I think I'm 7 and a bit years until our whiskey is ready. And not 77 rabbit years, as captioning has just said.
Yes.
So the other thing which is interesting is if people are doing those occasional but long-term commutes, they want something like this. If they're not going to go by train, because train's really expensive in the scheme of things.
Yeah.
So Chris and I bought ourselves a Tesla today.
Oh, that's what
Yeah.
you're in Leeds for then.
Yes, indeed. If you could, I should be showing my screen.
Oh yeah, I saw that on screen actually. I just didn't pay full attention to it. And how do you like it? My brother-in-law's got one, and he takes childish delight in the fart button. As we call it.
Okay. Yeah, we looked at that. Didn't even turn it on. Man, that's just silly. Let's not bother.
Yeah. Yeah, you can see.
But I mean, obviously, when you go and spend 40 grand, you've got to make sure you already like the car.
Yeah.
But it drives very well. Very well. They're very comfortable. Brilliantly quiet. At the moment, it's about as loud as it will ever be because they're brand new. As the tyres settle in, they'll be a little bit quieter. But because obviously I've driven one twice previously. Once was the first time I ever drove one, and that's what started me on this car. And then we went for a test drive a month ago or whatever it was. And at that time, I was a bit overwhelmed with all the stuff that was going on. I mean, the driving itself is straightforward, but you've got so much stuff going on the screen, and trying to work out all of that at the same time. I found it. The drive was great, but I was struggling to assimilate all the information quickly enough. This time, instantly got it. Obviously, my subconscious has processed it all in the background. I had no trouble with any of the interface whatsoever this time, and so drove it out of Leeds manually because actually it turns out brand new. I'll put it on cruise control. Like, can't have it on cruise control. We're still calibrating it. The cameras need to 10 or 15 miles before that's kind of interesting. So they're not just arbitrarily set up. They've obviously got a learning algorithm in there that figures it out. Can't have cruise. Then all of a sudden the smart cruise came on, and then about miles later the auto steering came online.
Oh wow!
So basically from just after the M62 out of Leeds, all the way back to our place, sort of 10 miles this side of Hull, drove the whole way. All I did was sometimes pull into another lane to overtake something. We haven't got the full self drive on this.
Yeah, you have to pay extra for that, don't you? Software upgrade.
But just the lane keeping and stuff. So you stick it in the lane, say, I don't want to go faster than 69 miles an hour. And so it'll do whatever, it'll stay behind the car in front. If the car goes fast, it'll accelerate up to 69 miles an hour. And if you want to overtake, you put the indicator on. It drops it out of auto steer. You change lanes back in, turn it back onto auto steer, and then you just sit there with a finger on the wheel. And it literally drove me all the way home, apart from a handful of overtaking manoeuvres.
Yeah. Be interesting to see how it coped with drove down the A1 yesterday, and the A1 is most unpleasant at times because you have two lanes and you have sort of lots of traffic, and you have people quite aggressively jostling through, and then you have because it's the A1, you'll occasionally see a tractor or something like that. That sort of chaos, and it's in terms of driver workload, it's a hideous road to drive on, but it'd be interesting to see if the AI could cope with that any better than a human.
So I think it will do. The issue is whether it's jerky, and they keep doing little software updates to make it smoother in the way it does it. But I'll tell you what, I mean, okay, Leeds isn't exactly a hard drive for me. It's 46 miles or something. But it was so relaxing. Because, I mean, you're still watching the road, but you're not worrying. So you're just making sure nothing weird happens. So you're ready to take. But instead of constantly keeping it in line, it just took care of it. It was very impressive.
Yeah, so you're in a supervisory capacity rather than a actual executive capacity. Overlook as opposed to driving. I mean, enough that I could start to fiddle around with the stuff on the screen and figure out what the different modes and options were, because all I had to do was keep an eye on the road, and then, whereas normally you take your eyes off the road for about 2 seconds and you're already starting to be into. Yeah, it's an interesting thing whether that's an improvement in safety, because effectively once you start being able to wander in your attention, does that make you more or less aware sudden problems. I mean, obviously they've dealt with this problem in aviation for years because most commercial flights are under computer control for the vast majority of the flight,
but you're
unless
not
something goes wrong.
the airplane in front.
No, and also the pilots. There's two of them. They're highly trained and they're paying attention and they're not tired and all of those other things. And they haven't
the
got
chances of an incident happening in less than 10 seconds in an airplane are very, very slight, short of an engine going out, and even then the avionics of it.
Yeah, I mean, just occasionally there'll be something that proves the reverse, isn't there, about that guy who landed on the Hudson? But that's that's completely the exception to the norm.
Yes. Yep.
So.
No, I think the AI stuff they've got going on in Teslas in particular is actually remarkable.
Yeah,
and will continue to get better.
Yeah, it's interesting at all that. I mean, obviously it's been sneaking into normal cars anyway, hasn't it? But Tesla.
Yeah, I mean, adaptive cruise has been around for a while, but the whole active lane, it's not just lane keeping, because I've had that on a couple of cars I've hired in the past, where it'll sort of rumble or buzz the steering wheel and give you a little bit of steering. But this just it isn't like that. This actually drives the car. It just needs to still be aware of what's going on.
Yeah. As an interesting point, I remember driving back from Ferryport last year, and I think I was driving at 1 o'clock in the morning. And I was driving up the M1, which is always frustrating at night because you have lots and lots of roadworks and over summer nights and things like that. And I remember had cruise control in the car, just dumb cruise control. You could sort of speed up and slow down. And I actually disengaged cruise control and drove the thing as manually as possible because I needed some workload to keep myself awake.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was trying to, in order to give myself something to concentrate on, because there's not a lot of traffic, there's not a lot to do. You just stay in one lane and overtake, every 5 to 10 minutes. I was actually trying to regulate my speed at a very, very particular speed, just by adjusting the throttle, just to give myself something to do. It's like busy work, because if I put it in cruise control, I'm really going to struggle to pay attention to the road at that point because there's just not enough interest. So.
Yeah, I wonder how that will be with this, because you absolutely don't need to be paying that much attention because it will take care of it. It's got all sorts of collision avoidance, which is why the government announced this big push last week to be able to see if it's a consultation officially. But we know that these things are safer than ordinary drivers.
Yeah, because normal drivers are shit. I mean, the reality is humans are terrible drivers. So
this is why we were talking about it last time, weren't we? The exam results. It's like, who's to say that the teachers had any better clue of what the kids were going to come up with than an AI would do?
Yeah.
It'd be different, but it doesn't mean that humans are better.
No. Well, humans are judgmental, which is a double-edged sword, isn't it?
Yes.
And, fine judgment is, of course, a positive, but poor judgment, which many people demonstrate, of course, isn't.
Yes.
This is why countries have Supreme Courts, aren't they? And that people go through a rigorous selection process to make it on the Supreme Court because supposedly they have extremely good judgment skills, as opposed to just populism, which is to go with whatever the public's baying for at that moment.
Yeah, if I put a tweet out about that right now. I probably talked to you before about Tim Harford. You come across Tim Harford?
I follow him on Twitter, actually.
Yeah, okay, me too. So he had a tweet out this morning or replied to somebody else. So he's got a new book coming out, and somebody had made a tweet about, this ought to get into the hand of all our MPs. And I replied to that saying, and there was a bit of banter backwards and forwards about that. And I said, even if MPs did receive it and read it, they still wouldn't act on it. Because the problem isn't MPs, although they are a problem. The problem is that people will not put facts in before their own emotional or self-selection biases.
Yes, of which people just have plenty. Yeah, no, I do like Tim Harford. I read his book. Which was the last one? I can't blanked on the name. I remember reading it on holiday actually. It had a long thing about the price of coffee. And it started with the price of the coffee in Waterloo Station. I'm trying to remember it now.
I haven't got any of his books yet, but his next one I've got on my Christmas list.
Yeah, no, the first one, I actually got in an email conversation with him as well, because in his book, he made a claim about, this was shortly after the time of Deepwater Horizon.
Yeah.
And he worked for Shell at one point, and he made a claim out there saying that about the relative safety of drilling a well like this. You know, they drilled 14,000 wells in the Gulf of Mexico, and only a few had ever catastrophically blown out. And I actually emailed him back and had said I disagree, because I knew various people in the oil industry saying that the well that actually had a problem was a complete outlier in terms of how difficult it was. So even though the statistical sample of 14,000 and only one of them is catastrophically wrong suggests it's very safe, of those 14,000, you know, all but about 20 of them were much safer than this one that blew out. So the one that blew out, they were right on the edge of they were pushing the envelope in all directions, so it was like an outlier.
Okay.
So the chances of that well going wrong, when you looked at it, I mean, I could vaguely remember my calculations. I remember going over it because I still had some sick fascination in it, and it's actually amazing that they didn't have a problem like that sooner, because they were all the parameters, they were right at the point where they could barely control the well if everything was working. If anything went wrong, they couldn't control the well anymore, so it was almost inevitable they'd have a blowout. So anyway, I got a long conversation with him about it, but ultimately I couldn't prove what I was talking about because I didn't have the insider information. But from my experience of working on wells and knowing a little bit about how you control an oil well, I was thinking, wow, it's amazing that they haven't had more problems like that.
If they run outside of their sort of standard 3 deviations or something,
Yeah, they were way outside of their normal.
I wrote an article 3 months ago, I think it is now, on SPC, statistical process control. God, I can't say statistical. Induces a stutter every time I try and say it. But yeah, I think that's the thing is, in fact, I just done an article on my blogs, I think last week or week before, was on people optimize their processes around the mean. Optimize, which means that anything that operates, any circumstances outside of their optimized range, they're really shit at. I wonder if I've got that.
That's effectively what it means, isn't it? That if you optimize for a standard procedure and then you have a procedure that's outside of that, you're almost inevitably going to have problems.
Yes, I'll see if I can find it, because I think it's interesting. Of course, I'm weird like that. I'm assuming that I've actually... There we go, productivity versus resilience. This is the article. Been meaning to get this article out for yonks. It's this. So here's your standard Gaussian distribution. And then this is what... I won't read the whole article to you, but this is what happens is for any given organization, you've got a fixed area on the curve. And there are ways you can change that, but for a given organization, they have a fixed amount of effort, capability, skill, whatever that measure is. So what you do is, in order to increase your productivity, you narrow the curve around a preferred set of conditions. And so there you've got your blue line, where you've gone from the red line or even the yellow line. You've gradually optimized. Area under the curve is the same in every case. But then with in your case, so you've now got a well that's operating over here. And in the red curve or the yellow curve, you kind of find, it's a 1 in a million chance of it going wrong. But come down here, well outside your productivity. If this way, I could probably rewrite this as a safety curve, and it'd be basically inverted. And so the likelihood of something going wrong if it was here would be huge, because your procedures just don't work there.
No, that would be absolutely it, that you've optimized the process, because they've got very good at drilling things efficiently that fall in a certain set of criteria, and they've removed waste, what you consider waste meaning surplus capacity, elsewhere. So if there's something outside of those circumstances, you're poorly equipped to deal with it. I mean, this would apply to the supply chain is a primary example of this, isn't it? How weird things went wrong with the supply chain since lockdown.
I think I've actually talked about some of that. I mean, I haven't said quite those things, but I've alluded to it. That you get the pandemic come along, all these things that can come along and change where the best place to be is. It might be that the best place to be is now somewhere completely different. Maybe x equals -2 is now the new optimum, or maybe just you get a blip, and for a short period of time, x -2 is where you are. and then you're screwed if you're running the blue line, because the blue line is incapable of operating at X minus T.
And the interesting thing is the market will punish you for being the red line.
Yes, horribly, until it goes all horribly wrong, and then people go, well, why weren't you more resilient? So, and actually, this is actually the conclusion of my article is. This is somebody saying resilience isn't always profitable. And I said something very much the same. Resilience isn't always cost effective or productive. However, when the inevitable happens, the inevitable happens, we'll be glad that a lack of efficiency gives us the time to find a new normal.
The problem is you'll be put out of business by somebody who's optimized to the current conditions.
And then they go out of business, and now you've got a problem in the market because nobody can supply flour.
Yeah, exactly.
Or whatever it was that was in short supply.
Yeah, it is a fascinating one. And the other one is the market's been unkind to generalists because GE were famously a generalist, and they argued that you could be a conglomerate that did a bit of everything. And it turned out that a lot of it was crooked accounting, where basically Jack Walsh, the CEO, was seen as being some sort of miracle worker and saying the advantage is being a huge conglomerate. But actually they were cooking the books, and it was some parts of GE, I think it was the finance division, was fantastically profitable and everything else wasn't very profitable. And so in some ways they were able to hide losses.
Okay, well, I didn't know, but I mean there is absolutely a legitimate way when you become a multinational. When you or I become multinationals, and one of the things you do instead of having a product or a market, you start having businesses, and that's your portfolio. Instead of having a portfolio of products, you have a portfolio of businesses. And one does well one year and one does badly, and that's how you balance up your risks. But really, that's just a granularity issue. Do I trade products or do I trade companies? So you do try and do that. But one of the really common things, I was advising a client of mine just last not to take a profit share agreement with somebody they're partnering with, but to take not a profit share, but to take a revenue share or a fee per sale. Because the profit shares is the accounting departments or the finance department does exactly that. They go, well, you know that if we make a profit on this product, we've got to give those guys over their 20%.
Yeah.
We'll just load the business with all of our costs.
Yeah.
So that business makes a loss every year, and somebody else that shouldn't be making a profit apparently is on paper.
Yeah, absolutely. You can hide profit, but you can't hide revenue.
Yeah, exactly. So back in my big corporate days, this thing about who carries the overhead was something we used to have arguments about. I mean, proper arguments all the time. So I ran the biggest product in the company. So people wanted to dump all of their costs onto my profit. What's it called?
Cost center or whatever.
Yeah. They wanted it all to be dumped on me because I had lots of profit. It's like, no, that's just bollocks. Keep your own bloody costs, because otherwise it makes my part look less profitable than it is. And it isn't about bonuses, because I don't care about that. It's about it stops me being able to raise the investment to do more things with my product line because suddenly it doesn't look profitable. Piss off. So yes, interesting.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating, that curve, because of how it applies now, because lots of companies there's just so many things. It's like commercial property would be one of those things. Commercial property at the moment is very much a blue line optimized towards retail.
Yes, and suddenly you need to be over X minus equals X minus 2.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is pension funds rely on it.
Yeah.
Pension funds have always put their money in commercial property because it was regarded as safe as anything. Yeah. Because it was always taught bricks and mortar, safest thing there. Commercial property, you can't, it is the ultimate, short of gold, is the ultimate sort of steadfast investment. Yeah.
Life changing.
So, that's why most pension funds have got huge amounts of money tied up in UK high streets where these big companies are going bust or threatening to renegotiate their rents.
Yeah. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, because they need to pay pensions, they need to make quite a lot of rent on those things, because the obvious thing is everybody's talking about business rates, but it's not just business rates, it's rents as well. Rents are colossal on high street shops, and you could argue, are they actually worth that much in this day and age? Can you put something in there that can make enough money to pay that sort of rent? So yeah, I mean, obviously it's useful to have town centre prime real estate is useful, and people will pay for it, but the question is, will they pay as much as they're paying now? In other words, what businesses that can you find that would actually pay that much? And I'm not sure you could.
So going back to our starting conversation, so I wonder how those rents compare with what you could get if you were doing that apartment share idea.
I don't know, because they're potentially quite profitable. Nobody's done that thing. I know they've done sort of WeWork, haven't they? These temporary office spaces. That's something that's been quite heavily developed, and people got burned on WeWork. And these sort of temporary pop-up office things, they're all over the place.
Pop-up apartments, or medium. What's the word? It's because it's not short-term or medium-term. There must be some other phrase where I say, look, I'm going to need it for 4 days every month.
Yeah, it's fractional rental, isn't it?
Yeah, fractional rental works.
Yeah, because that's effectively what you'd like to do, is you'd like to buy the option of having 5 days per month in a city centre location in somewhere that hasn't got hotel services, like you said, but it is a low effort type of environment that you'd feel comfortable at.
So if you were an apartment, not an apartment, an office building, so what's to stop you, one, converting some of the former offices into fractional accommodation? And what the additional costs of that would be?
I guess there's differences in terms of fire safety and things between
There'll
something.
Be a bunch of building regs and planning regs,
because there's difference between sleeping and you'd want to, the amenities would need to change, but you probably could pitch it perfectly. You need something that's different to a hotel, but not. Sorry, I'm just pouring myself another nip of that. You'd need to have. And what would actually be ideal, what would differentiate you from a hotel, is if you could have storage, persistent storage.
Yes. Oh, that's a good point. Yes, because that's how I used to do it when I was in the States. I don't know what you did, but I used to travel with just hand luggage, because I was able to leave a couple of weeks of clothing in the US. I used to get it laundered while I was over there. So I literally went out with hand luggage, nothing more.
Yeah, I was doing that when I was in Africa, that I'd leave stuff in a locker. But yeah, that sort of idea, because that's a hotel can't offer you that. That's a USP. So you could travel lighter, knowing that you've got some clothes, some knickknacks, and just things like that there. So it's not just about business services like Wi-Fi and the trouser press, the mythical trouser press that every hotel room used to have. Because you don't need a trouser press nowadays. But if you had the ability to have your stuff delivered to your room on the day you arrived, that would be valuable.
Absolutely. And while you're not there, they can get it laundered. So that's a service. They'll take care of the laundry. So when you come back, it's all redone. Washed and ironed where appropriate.
Well, yeah, it's a value-added service, isn't it? Because the basic offering would be that you have this, you put stuff in this locker, and it's removed and reappears when you come back to your room, because you don't have to necessarily go back to the same room if they're fairly standard, but you have your stuff, don't you?
Because there was a concept I was playing around with, probably 7 or 8 years ago now, maybe even longer. Anyway, where at airports you'd have a clothes exchange, and so I turn up on holiday, or traveling light or whatever. So I turn up with my hand luggage, and then go out to the airport into the clothes exchange, and I go, I want the 1 week backpacking kit, or I want the beach kit, or whatever it is, and I would buy a set of clothes in my size, suitable for the activity I'm planning to do. And they've all been worn, and I wear them for the holiday, and then I return to the same place on my way out, and I get maybe 60% of the cost back.
Yeah, clothing as a service.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, you see that. I think people have played around with clothing rental, but all that stuff gets completely screwed up with COVID, doesn't it? For now, because people are going to be super concerned about that. But I think the idea is a good one. It's just not a 2020 or 2021 idea.
But it's an interesting idea. As you say, I think the idea of clothing and service, I've not thought about calling it that. That's really good. But yeah, literally, you turn up, they give you this idea of pack as well. They give you the pack for the beachwear or the active explorer or the cyclist or whatever it is pack, and they talk about stuff, and you go, right, and what this has got in it is 3 t-shirts and a pair of shorts, and people probably want to take their own underwear. Maybe they'll do socks, but whatever that is, and you hand it in at the end, get some of your money back. If you keep it, fine. You pay top dollar for secondhand stuff. But if you hand it back, you get most of the money back. It gets laundered and passed on to the next person.
Yeah, no, it's a good idea because Ryanair's baggage policy and things makes that more suitable.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely. So if you can avoid that, you can do a week's worth of clothing, or not much more than their baggage, but you get most of it back when you leave.
Yeah, because then it would actually save you money in doing so. Yeah.
And it's just a convenience. I mean, you can get to an airport twice as fast if you haven't got baggage.
Yeah.
And again, you don't want to try. You just go, hey, right, you've got my sizes on file. I just want the X kit. You'd pre-book it if you're organised. The backpacking is brilliant.
Skiing would be one because beachwear. You'll wear beachwear at home. I mean, I've done nothing but wear beachwear since March, if you know what I mean. It's like permanently in beachwear. But ski equipment, you don't wander around in the house in ski equipment. So ski equipment is a very limited window of use, hasn't it?
Yes. Although demand's pretty high. But yeah, that would work. Ski equipment could work. I mean, beachwear as well, to be honest. It depends how light you want to travel. It's more difficult if you don't have a lot of gear. But if I could avoid taking a suitcase on a trip, and it cost me 30 quid or something to effectively rent the clothing for a week, that sounds very attractive.
Yeah, I mean, people are talking about, because fast fashion, the ultimate, if you take fast fashion a little bit further forward, you have more persistent items and you change them every 2 weeks, but you rent them. That seems to be a more sustainable option, really. Than buying shit clothing that wears out in 2 weeks. You buy new clothing and it lasts 2 weeks. It's just, that's clearly nuts. It's not a sustainable practice. But if you want to change your fashion quickly, then rental, it seems to be the way to go. Or you can dress it up as leasing, can't you? Because people will lease a car and they think they're actually owning the car. So you can,
I guess it is.
Of course, you can combine that with the business-based concept, the fractional rental as well, and then you've got a real idea, haven't you? You sell that service on top of it. Like if you're down in the city for 2 days, you can rent a suit.
Yes, already in your size and everything, your tastes, your styles.
Yeah, exactly. You could have a high class suit waiting for you when you get there.
Yeah.
Although you'd have to really work on people's confidence because an ill-fitting suit is just not going to work. But
again, these days, it's so much easier to have established people's measurements and know that it's going to be right.
Have you seen the creepy thing Amazon are doing with they've got their own smart band, and one of the things you do is on the app you can take a photo of yourself from 4 different angles in your underwear and it works out your BMI.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
It applies AI to work out your body fat percentage, and it can show you what you'd look like if you were thinner or fatter.
Okay, that's
there's so many things wrong with this and how this is going to go badly wrong. But obviously the technology they've got to work out your volume and where you're at, you could apply that to clothing. I mean, I'm sure Amazon are actually taking all that data to build up a huge database of sizes of people. So because ideally on Amazon, if you could say, show me stuff that fits, That would make, because when you buy stuff, when you buy clothing online, the amount of returns is ridiculous, and that's a huge cost.
Yes, it is. I mean, I don't really buy any clothing online. It's not none, but it's a very small fraction of anything that I buy. Actually, that's not true. Actually, increasingly these days, because I buy a lot of stuff from Joe Brown, and they have always been online only until recently. They've got a store in York and in Sheffield now. But Ella, my daughter, she buys most stuff online, and she thinks nothing of ordering five different things on the expectation that one of them is one she wants and just ships them back.
My wife does the same thing, and it's incredibly inefficient, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's certainly not environmentally friendly. So.
But it's also inexpensive for the business to process, especially as all those returns now have got to go back and be sanitized and go out again. So if you could get that down from 1 in 5 items to, say, a 50% hit rate, you'd achieve a huge saving.
Yeah, because half of it is, do I like it? But equally, the other half is, does it fit me properly? And there shouldn't be any doubt about that. We should know with a degree of precision how good the fit is going to be. Yeah.
There's apparently another startup that sells a similar piece of software that does the scanning you and working out what fits you. It uses an accelerometer to measure you, so it's not actually taking a picture. So it'll build up a picture of all your curves through an accelerometer, which is a clever way. The phone's got an accurate
parts of your body.
Well, literally, I believe that you literally put it around you like that, and it tries to build a picture. So if it starts from a known point, it probably says put your phone on top of your head or something. I don't know, and then from there it should be able to make a map. Because people don't feel that that's intrusive, but taking a picture like this of you semi-naked does feel intrusive.
Yes. Well, accelerometer, that's pretty cool. Accelerometer and gyroscope, because everything's solid state these days. So interesting.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting idea, because anything to reduce the amount of returns would obviously be a smart idea. But yeah, you could combine all of those things together, and rental clothing and fractional ownership, fractional rental. I think there's a powerful business. And high ex-department stores would be a good place to put it, because you're close to the centre of town, you're close to the commercial centre, and all of those things.
Yeah, or equally, a traditional office building which has only got 50% occupancy, you turn half into the service departments or the semi-service departments.
Yeah. But you probably could. You could go over every single possible service and work out which ones people liked, which ones you can get rid of completely, and which ones people would pay extra for. And you could probably cost it out quite accurately.
So the kicker is you still need to be able to make sure that the place is left clean and tidy when you leave. So there still needs to be a service. So, and that does have a cost associated with it.
Yeah,
interesting.
But you'd encourage multiple night stays, because that's cheaper.
Yeah,
because you're not going to clean it every day. You're only going to clean it at the end of your occupancy. And likewise, if you encourage people to book in advance, like a certain number of days every day for as far ahead as possible, it makes your cleaning logistics easier, so you know where your cleaning is going to be needed.
Yep.
All of those things, you can forecast demand for cleaning better up front.
Because of course we can already do sort of Cortana, book me a meeting, Cortana, schedule my focus time and my meeting time. This is just becomes part of that same AI booking service through our calendars. Okay, well I know I need to. Dylan sent Simon an email saying, Simon, I need you on site down at the client sometime this month. And Cortana just picks it up and goes, so Dylan reckons you need to be on site in London for 4 days. Do you want me to schedule it for you? And it takes care of the negotiating when that slot can be.
Yeah, like booking a meeting room, really, rather than a hotel. Yeah. And like I said, some people, if you have work patterns that are quite regular, you might find that you go down there on a Thursday night and come back on a Friday or something like that. That's the only thing, is how to fill these places during the weekend. But you might make enough from in the week you don't care.
Yeah, or in the weekend, it's a bit Airbnb.
Yeah, exactly. because it's a city centre location, isn't it? But I think yeah. I mean, you'd have to work out how to make it compelling and cheaper, or have some huge advantage over a business hotel. But
well, you can get it down to 50 quid a night. You're down at B&B rates.
yeah,
And I'd pay 50 quid a night for an apartment rather than a B&B.
would you pay, say, hypothetically, 200 quid a month to have the ability to reserve so much capacity?
Okay, so that's interesting. So if I knew that I was going to use it,
Yeah,
absolutely. Because 200
you
quid
could.
a month is only the cost of a train fare to London.
Yeah,
And if I am okay, so there's a question of what do I do about the court short I need to go down tomorrow and do a stay over.
mm-hmm.
Can I still use my facility or not? And that might be tricky. But
you could possibly pay a surge rate for the ability to change it. You know, so you have a certain negotiated rate, and then rather than let you go to a hotel, you would sell some excess capacity that you already had.
Yes, exactly. So especially if there are multiple of these facilities, either because you've got 50 rooms across London, or because you partner with other people that have, and you manage the peaks and troughs amongst you.
Yeah, exactly. So it gives you a little bit of slack, so you can get something at short notice, but you still use the same payment method, you still use the same booking method and everything. Yeah, I think that would work, because I think people probably will regularize to a certain type. You know, like on Tuesday you've got a sales meeting, so you know you need to be in the office or something like that.
Yes, and again, one of the consequences of lockdown is that people are more flexible in their expectations. Instead of saying we just need to be here on Thursday, it's much more of a negotiation. When can you get here? Well, I can't do Thursday, but I can do Wednesday, or I can be there all week next week.
Yeah, because from the point of view of this business, you want people to regularize, but you can allow ways of people paying extra for more flexibility. The same way that airfares work.
Yes, exactly.
You pay extra for more flexibility or more consumption, because the airline industry is clever in the sense everybody on the plane pays a different price.
Yes. Yeah, there's a few organisations like that, but yeah.
But
all down to demand driving. Yeah.
So you can extract the maximum revenue by things like that. But I think it would be a good service.
Okay, that's the third business idea that we've had, or I've had in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm trying to retire, and I keep going, here's another great idea.
Yeah. Trouble is, it's intensely capital intensive, isn't it? Yeah. It's enormously capital intensive.
I've got another brilliant idea I'm kicking around at the moment. I'm not going to share it with you on this occasion, but I need £1 million, and almost all of that £1 million is actually marketing. Whereas this idea we're discussing now, that's the capital to acquire the property or lease the property. Yeah. Whereas one is all the marketing spend. £1 million, probably 600,000. That's just launch money. That's not ongoing. So £1 million just to get it off the ground, all marketing.
Yeah. At the moment, it'd be hard to get that because people have had the stock market's risen so much since March. People have the illusion that the stock market is the only place they need to invest money in.
Yes, we'll see.
Yeah. Fascinating.
Yes, good. Well, I enjoyed that. That was a good chat.
Indeed,
what have we got for our next user group session?
I've got Matt Weston lined up, and I'll after this I'll send him a message just to confirm. I spoke to him about it in July, and I did the session for him, so he owes me one. So I'll just confirm we're all there, and I'll try and get a synopsis off him. It's just August. Nothing happens in August, doesn't it? It's the silly season, so you tend to ignore everything until September.
Yeah, exactly.
But we're officially out of the silly season now.
Yes, kids are back, aren't they?
Almost. On the cusp of it. They are in Scotland. But in fact, I drove to Scotland the other day and went past a school, and it was really funny to think that school's actually occupied.
Yes.
But I think the next 2 weeks will be quite exciting times anyway, to see what happens.
Interesting times.
Yes, very much. So,
Cool. Well,
Right.
you do that.
Yep, I'll leave you to it then.
If not
Yeah.
before.
Yes, all right. Well, good talking
Good.
anyway.
Cheers,
Right.
Dan.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye.